Hi, it's Sandra here from Create in Spain, and today's video is just a quick one on a few bits and pieces that I use, things that you might find handy. The first thing I'm going to cover is this set here, which I have. Now, these are straightforward water brushes, they're Pentel ones, and I've had these for, must be a couple of years now. They're great. I think at the time probably paid about £6 for the set of 3, but I have noticed that they're pretty expensive these days. I'm not sure if the prices have gone up everywhere, but I don't know, I just don't seem to have found any cheap Pentel ones. They have different sizes of tip, so you have the small one, which is that one there, and this one is the big one, and then the other one is in between the two. They work brilliantly, they're great. I use them all the time for doing small bits of watercolour, and I use them if I want to add water to anything else that I'm using. So yeah, very useful, and they don't leak, and they're really great. But as I said, they are the more expensive option. But what I wanted to do was have some which are pre-made up into colours, and I didn't want to buy the branded water brushes that are coloured. So I had a quick look on eBay and I came across these, which were in fact empty to start with. They were simply water brushes. But because I have water-based inks, watercolour inks, I figured there was very little point in my buying actually, coloured brushes. I've already got the stuff to make them, so why buy the coloured ones? So I bought these empty brushes, and these came from China. They were pretty cheap. I think I've got 20, and I think it was somewhere around €10 or something. I mean, it wasn't very expensive, and I've got a lot of them. What do I think of them? For general use, they're pretty good. They are prone to perhaps a little bit of seepage if you press too hard on the barrel. So my solution to that is to wipe the inside of the barrel with a little Vaseline, and then that should stop any odd little liquid drops coming out. Now with these, it's really very strange because they actually screw on the opposite way to what you would expect. If I do it the normal way, as you can see, it doesn't screw on. When I first got them, I thought, oh, don't tell me they're faulty. And then I realised they screw in the opposite direction. I have no idea why. I've never come across that before on anything. But they work in exactly the same way once they're filled up with your normal water brushes, the ones that are filled with colour, and they're fine. This particular one is a relatively fine tip, and I chose that because generally speaking what I'm going to be doing with these is fine work. It's not for large areas, so I chose a fine tip. On one or two of them I did actually cut the end of the tip off. Or if I can get the tip off there. So for example, on this one I've got a stumpy end, and so that one is slightly different again. And obviously you can cut it down still further if you so wish, if you have a reason to do it. But in general, I've kept them with the points on. But they work very well, and considering the amount of ink that goes into these costs cents, I mean, it's ridiculously cheap in comparison. This one, I actually have a little bit of Pearl-Ex powder in. Now you have to take it easy on the Pearl-Ex powder if you're going to put it in there, because it will probably block up the holes a little bit. So if you're going to use it, very, 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 very little of it, okay? Unless you can find one which is supposed to be for a higher flow, in which case the holes are probably bigger and you can get away with a bit more. But yeah, they work really nicely, so I'm quite pleased with that. and they're very handy for doing little bits of watercolour on cards. You may have seen me using these before, and again, these came from China. Everything I think comes from China these days, good heavens. But they are little eyedropper bottles. They hold, I don't know, 15 ml or something. They're really handy things to have around. This particular one has just got water in it, and it has a little nozzle. You can fill it with whatever you want to fill it, and the nozzle is relatively fine, and it's certainly a very useful thing to do. And this one, for example, I've put fast drying wood glue in. Now, fast drying wood glue is another of my favourites as far as glue goes. If you get a good one, it's excellent stuff to use. Now, this is a slightly different bottle, and this one I got, would you believe, from, whoops, one of my brushes on page there. This is a bottle that I purchased very cheaply. It was under €1 from a vape shop. I have never smoked in my life, and I've never been into a vape shop apart from this one time when I found that we could get these bottles from them. And the reason I wanted it is because it has this super fine tip, and this is great. Now this one, as you can see, I've put Gem-Tac into. I had a bottle of Gem-Tac, which is quite an expensive glue, but it's a glue designed so that it is actually able to glue things onto clothing and go through the washing machine. So, you know, this stuff sticks, but it is expensive. And the trouble is, I found that the bottle that it came in was a little bit heavy on the dispensing of it, and also because it's quite a thick glue, it was quite difficult to get it to come out of the bottle in the first place when you don't have a full bottle. So I've now got this in the nozzle, and this is fine. I can dispense very small amounts. It has a little silicone cap to it which you can put on, and that keeps it nice and safe. This one I have filled, same bottle, but I've I filled it with acrylic varnish. I have some acrylic varnish, and I discovered this is excellent for using in cases where you want the glue to flow more rapidly because it is much thinner. And there we go, you can see the little blobs I just put down. But it does stick things onto card very well indeed. Much to my surprise, I wouldn't have thought varnish would, but it works quite well. And this is great for when you've got very fine lettering or something like that that you want to apply. The last one that I have got, I have filled with masking fluid. Now, I don't know what brand of masking fluid this is. All I can say is it's a grey one. You can see some of the colouring has sunk to the bottom. I am not going to shake this bottle because I don't particularly want the colouring anyway. But this comes out, and I've got a little sample. You can see that it comes out quite happily from this particular nozzle, and I could use that to fill things in. But at the same time, it comes out quite easily, but I could still do relatively fine lines with it if I had to. But it would be okay. I could, you know, colour in a reasonably large block if I need to, just with that nozzle. Now, the reason I ended up using this one is because I bought a Molotow masking pen and then found that it doesn't work on my watercolour paper, doesn't work on my card, it wrecks the card, it stains it, it's absolutely useless for what I want. And when I contacted Molotow, they said, oh, well, you're using it for something it's not designed to be used for. It's not designed for watercolour. Well, why don't they say that on their advertising? I would love to know why they don't do that. But they don't. So spent a lot of money on the Molotow pens, and I wouldn't recommend them for anyone doing watercolour at all. In fact, I wouldn't recommend them for anything, because if they're that fussy on the card or whatever that they work on, they're of no use to me whatsoever. Okay, that's it, short and sweet. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.